The Armenia story is filled with Central Valley people making life-changing gifts. I journeyed to Armenia with Valley doctors on a medical mission of mercy. The Valley's Armenia Mission of Mercy, presented by Fashion Furniture. It's a place filled with history, beauty, and a cultural connection to California's San Joaquin Valley. Armenia is the ancestral homeland of tens of thousands of people here. While many local families have 2, 3, even 4 generations born in the U.S., their culture is deeply rooted 7,000 miles away in Armenia, a country that's seen its border change dramatically over the course of centuries, a country that survived a genocide and saw thousands flee for their own survival, a country that endured 75 years of Soviet rule, a country that lures many back, like a medical mission team from Fresno that returned for its 5th visit, serving the people of Armenia who have been through a lot but remain resilient and strong.
KC photographer Kevin-Mahan and I were delighted to be invited as guests of the medical mission team led by the honorary consul of the Republic of Armenia in Fresno. We traveled from Fresno to Armenia and spent about a week with the mission team, documenting their work in Armenia and the neighboring Republic of Artsakh, highlighting their help to people who need it, people who often let their medical needs go untreated because they have no money, no government assistance, and no insurance. It's volunteerism at its finest, a true mission of mercy. And it was a mission that began where last year's mission ended, with the unpacking of a storage crate full of medical supplies that's been waiting a whole year to be unloaded.
This is the moment the medical mission team from Fresno has been waiting for.
Gloves. Gloves with us, we'll use it.
Unpacking a 60-foot shipping crate full of medical supplies from Fresno to Armenia. This crate sent last year containing surgical tables, gloves, a wheelchair, and more. A custom snag left it sitting in storage unopened until now.
We check everything if it's not explained.
This is for Dr. Mason.
Perfect.
Honorary Consul of the Republic of Armenia in Fresno, Berj Apkarian, has led this mission of mercy for 5 years, bringing doctors and supplies to people in need.
Our main focal point is to reach out and provide instruments, supplies, medications, whatever that might be the case, for areas that really need them and they don't have the means to have them.
Nearly a third of Armenia's 3 million people live in poverty. No health insurance, little government-provided support. So when a team of 50 doctors and specialists arrives offering supplies, medicine, and free care, they line up at clinics, at hospitals, even the hotel lobby.
And what is his name?
Ararat.
Ararat. Okay, Aro, yeah, like the mountain.
Doctor of Internal Medicine Ali Fayyad of Fresno met with patients in Yerevan's Hyatt Place Hotel before breakfast, checking breathing, blood pressure, whether their prescriptions are adequate.
So he's been taking the blood pressure medication for how long now?
Dr. Fayyad says chronic conditions like high blood pressure or diabetes are not maintained here. Patients can't afford a doctor's visit or the medicine.
It's a very humbling experience because we, like in the U.S., we have a lot of, like, you know, the most advanced medications and modalities of treatment and so on. So when you come here, people, they don't have a lot of these things. Again, get his blood pressure under very well control.
He says he's happy to help.
They really appreciate everything that we do, and that just makes us feel like fantastic at the end of every long day we spend here.
A long day, meeting patients, sorting supplies, and providing free care. A mission of giving that offers plenty in return.
So everything in this crate is going to more of the rural areas?
Everything is going to the rural areas, yes.
Now, all of those usable supplies and equipment from that crate were trucked to hospitals and clinics throughout Armenia, where they were put to immediate use. And there is one hospital in Armenia that was in need of more than just some supplies. Many parts of this facility need a major overhaul, and one very important room got one, thanks to the overwhelming generosity of 2 Fresno donors.
What a difference a year makes. The ribbon is cut on a brand new surgical suite at Artsakh Hospital. It's a $350,000 update at this Soviet-built facility crumbling from decades of decay. We saw this room last year. No running hot water, unsanitary, crumbling walls, antiquated equipment. But now, 2 donors from Fresno provided the means to make everything new.
Oh, it's overwhelming. Who would imagine that in 1 year it can transform into all this?
Donors Carrie Gavigian and Maddie Matoyan joined the Mission Doctors to celebrate the much-needed transformation, providing 60,000 people served by the hospital state-of-the-art care, both motivated by their heritage to help.
To come here and be able to give back to where my grandparents came from is what really makes me feel good.
I dedicated it in the name of my mom and dad, John and Lori Gavigian. And again, you know, my grandparents came from Armenia.
Local dignitaries, local villagers turned out to celebrate. Even the U.S. ambassador to Armenia, Lynn Tracy, thanked the mission for the incredible gift.
The spirit in which you are doing it makes me very proud to be an American.
Thank you. You've done the good work. It's amazing.
Amazing that 1 year and generous hearts can make such a big difference.
The most important part of this project is reaching out, serving the local population. Now I know that they're going to receive best care with the latest technology.
Changing one room from this to this, and ultimately saving lives.
And we saw the end result of another significant gift from a Fresno donor in Armenia. Michelle Tutelian donated $10,000 to the mission and had no idea how the money was going to be used. Mission organizers bought a piece of equipment called a chemical analyzer for the Infants of Jesus Healthcare Center in the Amavir district of Western Armenia. People of 14 nearby villages are served by this facility, and the analyzer was needed for important tests.
With this, they'll be able to do thyroid tests here, various other hormone tests, and CBC and all this other stuff locally for the population here. I'm very thrilled that that the contribution went to something tangible.
People who need that type of testing have had to travel to Yerevan, about an hour away, to get it done. Now they can have the testing much closer to home. When we come back, a Fresno family playing a huge role in creating new families in Armenia.
The best part of it was when I just took a step back and didn't help. And I watched my girls do everything they had been trained to do, and I just stood back and enjoyed every moment of it.
A true labor of love as the Fresno OBGYN brings his whole family to witness the miracle of giving at a women's hospital in Armenia. And the giving spirit spreads to the beautiful countryside of northern Armenia, where families flock for care by the American experts, and the littlest patients receive a special remembrance from that visit. But first, an emotional visit to Armenia's genocide monument. The Valley's Armenia Mission of Mercy, presented by Fashion Furniture. Armenia's second largest city is Gyumri. It's northwest of Yerevan, the capital, about an hour-and-a-half drive by car. We traveled to Gyumri to visit a women's health center. For 2 weeks every year, it's become a home away from home for the Thomas family of Fresno. And this year, the whole family showed up.
It's a family affair at the Akorian Mother and Child Birthing Center in Gyumri, Armenia. And for 2 weeks in October for the last 5 years, the Thomas family of Fresno has played a big role.
Happy birthday! Happy birthday! So we're going to get our
OBGYN Dr. Jeff Thomas and his wife Heidi spend their mission visit volunteering at this 20-year-old hospital. Dr. Thomas performing surgeries and delivering babies, Heidi assisting in helping new moms in recovery. And this year, there are 2 more Thomas additions, their daughters, 17-year-old Kate and 20-year-old Maddie.
It's been quite a journey being here and seeing firsthand what it is that they do here and how grateful the people here are for the help that they're receiving.
The Thomas girls are contemplating medical careers. They've heard their parents' mission trip stories year after year, and this year they're a part of the story themselves.
Coming here the first day, we jumped right into it, and it was like surreal. Like I wasn't sure I was here. I was like pinching myself to see if it was a dream.
I think it's an opportunity for them to see what I've invested my life into. And hopefully have a greater appreciation for what that investment has been.
The Team Thomas investment goes beyond these 2 weeks.
We came this year with 14 suitcases. We've already given out probably 30 infant packets to new moms.
Months before the mission, the Thomases make a baby registry and collect donated items, delivering unexpected gifts from the Thomas family to these new families in Armenia.
I never imagined that we would have this as a family. It definitely is a far better experience than any vacation that we've ever taken.
Tell them there's no blood dripping down, it's very dry.
A family of volunteers helping to deliver new life and save lives. A family affair that's truly an affair of the heart.
And the Armenian doctors and staff at this center had asked the Thomases to bring their kids. They say they want the relationship to continue with the next generation. After Gyumri, our travels in Armenia took us even further north to the Lori region. We followed the medical mission team to a clinic that serves a number of villages. Young and old came to meet with the American specialists and doctors.
It's a picturesque spot in northern Armenia's Lori region. Beautiful hillsides, cows and horses grazing freely in the distance. And the people of 7 nearby villages line up at the Artsakh Health Center, hoping to meet American doctors offering free care.
In this clinic, there are not specialists, only family doctors.
But the specialists from Fresno have arrived, like physical therapist Christina Koroyan.
Time your back spasmed. First time? 1 year ago. You were 14?
And cardiologist Dr. Dikran Gulaserian.
Like I saw a patient yesterday who needed a pacemaker, and she goes, well, I can't afford it. I said, why? There's no insurance here.
A steady stream of men, women, and children wanting a free checkup.
Tried to stand her up. She refuses. Is she's sitting by herself? Yes.
Lilith Azadorian and Marian Carrion are with the mission's pediatric team. They're offering early childhood screening, a rare service in Armenia.
In Armenia, there are very limited resources available to families who have children with, suspected developmental delay.
And now we're trying to teach the clinic staff to do the developmental screening to identify concerns that might need a higher level of assessment and intervention.
Carrion says there's a lack of money and support for families, and disabled children are often sent to orphanages. They hope their work to screen children early and direct them to help if needed will help stop that flow. And the importance of early childhood reading promoted by Fresno pediatrician Dr. Gregorys Monastery, a concept embraced by families in our communities, but not so much here.
And there's another issue that some parents, they don't know how to read, so we have to be careful for them not to be intimidated by us giving them books that they cannot use.
Dr. Lepegian working with the nonprofit Children of Armenia Fund to purchase and distribute 2,000 Armenian storybooks, a treat for kids visiting the doctor with lasting benefits.
And once they go to school, books become friends, and it's not like a chore or study anymore. It's just something joyful. It's attached to their emotions when they used to have a good time with their parents.
So much work in one small clinic, a full day of screenings and patient care, and a bonus for the visiting doctors, a spectacular view outside.
On our way back to Yerevan from Lori, we stopped at an incredible place for kids to go after school. It's called a smart campus that serves children who live in nearby villages. It was paid for by donations through the Children of Armenia Fund. The director of the center gave us a quick tour, and you can see more of our tour of the Co-op Smart Center by going to the Armenia page on our website, yourcentralvalley.com. When we come back, we're talking smoking.
I would love to get on TV and talk to the nation and say, stop smoking, stop drinking, and watch your salt. I mean, it's a killer.
Cigarette smoke is everywhere, on the streets, in restaurants, even in hospitals. The impact it's having on health. And we'll visit a place of historic and spiritual significance in Armenia, a beautiful stop where it's believed your wishes can come true.
The Valley's Armenia Mission of Mercy, presented by Fashion Furniture.
One thing very noticeable in Armenia that we don't see so much here in the U.S. is cigarette smoking. People smoke everywhere, on street corners, in many restaurants we went to. In fact, cigarettes and ashtrays are even on some menus. And believe it or not, there's even smoking in hospitals. While there are warnings posted about the dangers of smoking, there doesn't seem to be an organized movement to change that behavior. It was a source of frustration for the medical mission doctors. Many told us they saw patients suffering from unmanaged chronic conditions caused by smoking and poor diets, primarily Armenian men. Cardiologist Dr. Gregorys Monastery says the patients he saw aren't aware of the risks.
For example, we saw, was it yesterday or the day before, a guy who had a stroke, affected his left side, and he's still smoking 2 packs a day, and I'm sure his cholesterol is high too. I'm kind of frustrated, that's my problem. I mean, education is so poor here.
Dr. Monastery says he tried to scare his Armenian patients about the deadly effects of smoking, hoping they'll consider trying to break the habit.
Does it happen twice a month?
Twice, sometimes twice.
Okay.
Christina Koroyan was the first physical therapist to join the medical mission team. She wasn't sure if she would be busy, but she saw patients nonstop. She says many patients live with chronic pain because they can't afford to go to a doctor, or they would have to travel too far to see one.
Most of the physical therapists I learned are located in the capital city of Yerevan. We're in the villages 3 hours away. They have no idea what a physical therapist is. They don't have anything close by. They have to travel to, the capital to get any type of treatment, and it costs a lot of money.
Koroyan did her best to show her patients how to manage their pain, and she says she hopes to return next year better prepared to help even more patients. At one point during our visit to Armenia, we took a side trip to a place of historic and spiritual significance, a place very near the Turkish-Armenian border, a place that made it possible for Armenia to become the world's first Christian nation, a beautiful place where we got to witness something very special.
A young couple nervously waiting to begin their lives together, and they couldn't have picked a more meaningful place to exchange their vows. Gregorys Monastery, positioned in western Armenia, a half a mile from the Turkish border, is said to be a place where wishes come true. It's also the Armenian birthplace of Christianity.
And in 301 AD, that's the beginning of 4th century, Armenia became the first Christian nation, and we pride ourselves with that.
As the story goes, the region's pagan king sentenced St. Gregory the Illuminator into a dungeon with snakes for spreading his Christian beliefs. But when the king became sick, Gregory, who survived years in that pit, was able to cure him.
And the king, seeing the power of the Christian God, he converted to Christianity. He repented and asked Gregory to bless him and convert him to Christianity.
Visitors can still make the treacherous climb into the dungeon, now thankfully snake-free, and feel the spiritual presence. Touted as one of the most visited pilgrimage sites in Armenia, a place filled with history, religious significance, a place where wishes come true.
Just beautiful. And when we come back, we tour a place where Armenian treasures are made.
Today, for weaving the rugs, we only use the Armenian double knot technique and natural dyes.
A visit to the Megerian Carpet factory for a demonstration of the weaving method unique to Armenian-made rugs. Plus, a look at a very old rug that helped reunite a family in tragedy. And we'll venture east of Armenia into Artsakh, why this republic is so important to the Armenian people.
The Valley's Armenia Mission of Mercy, presented by Fashion Furniture.
Centuries of history woven knot by knot into treasured works of art. Megerian Carpets, a family-owned business, has been making these beautiful treasures in Armenia for more than a century. We had the opportunity to go inside for a look.
A vintage rug 160 years old that was ripped in two helped reunite a family torn apart by tragedy.
So during the genocide, a mother had a thought to split this rug into two pieces, gave it to each of her daughters and told them, if you lose each other, then maybe with the help of the two parts of a rug, you can find each other again someday.
A rug with an incredible story to tell among the many beautiful treasures at Megerian Rugs in Yerevan, Armenia.
The next rug is called the almond rug. Here are the shapes of almonds. The almond symbolizes maternity and fertility.
The factory itself has its own incredible story, a family business that started in 1917 in New York with showrooms internationally. But the heart of the company is based here in Yerevan.
Today, for weaving the rugs, we only use the Armenian double knot technique and natural dyes.
Our tour guide, Galina, was joined by company owner Rafi Megerian. We watched in awe as the rug makers demonstrated the weaving technique. They work so fast, it's hard to see it, but we're told the double knot is what makes Armenian rugs unique. 4,800 knots for one line of a large-size carpet. Each weaver makes about 25,000 knots a day, and that translates into a long time investment to get the job done.
An average-size rug takes 9 months to weave, just like when a woman is pregnant. It takes 9 months to form the baby.
Megerian Rugs has 22 weaving facilities in Armenia, providing jobs to thousands of workers, creating works of art that grace the walls and floors of churches, homes, and places of historic significance.
From the loom, what the loom you see, they cut it, and now I went to wash once or twice, and now we're doing the finishing. Finishing is going to take about 1 month.
9 months to completion, a literal labor of love, creating heirlooms for families that even keep families together, like the genocide rug, torn apart by tragedy, but reunited two sisters 50 years later.
From Armenia, we travel to the Republic of Artsakh. It lies between Armenia and Azerbaijan and has been the source of dispute between the two countries. The medical mission from Fresno spent a week in Artsakh, also known as Nagorno-Karabakh, serving its predominantly Armenian population.
Tatik and Papik, Grandma and Grandpa, a large stone monument, a symbol of Armenian heritage near Stepanakert, the capital city of the Republic of Artsakh. It's a beautiful mountainous region between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Once a part of historic Armenia, Russia gave it to the Azeris in the 1920s.
For us, this territory is very important because this is a real region of Armenia, even since 9th century BC.
The territory was at the center of a war between Armenia and Azerbaijan in the 1990s. A ceasefire was declared in '94, and Artsakh declared its independence.
We lost many territories, Nakhichevan, Western Armenia, but we resisted here.
Resistance and strength. Armenians claim those attributes proudly.
Women take care of the home and take care of the country while the men are fighting.
Artist Sarko Mine painted a tribute to Artsakh women on the side of a stefani-booroojian building.
This installation is symbolizing the spirit of the woman who takes care of the home.
As this region and its predominantly Armenian population works to rebuild from years of war, the people get by the best they can. The chance for free care from Fresno's medical mission doctors is appreciated. The president of Artsakh, Bako Sahakian, shared this message.
So pleased to see year after year things are growing together, and you are transforming with your team the concepts and the thoughts into reality.
Transforming lives through free medical care, transforming a region with years of hard work. But there's one thing the people of Artsakh say will never change.
For us, it was, it is, and it will be an undividable part of Armenia.
During the stop at the large stone monument near stefani-booroojian, the medical mission team met up with a U.S. Congressional delegation. Congress members Jackie Speer and Judy Chu pulled up for a brief visit to meet the mission doctors. Both are members of the Congressional Armenian Caucus. They spent a few minutes shaking hands, posing for pictures, and getting briefed on what the medical mission had been doing. The Congresswomen also met with high-ranking government leaders in the Republic, including the president. Still to come, a road trip outside stefani-booroojian.
Still behind the times.
A little bit. Not bad, though. Just a little bit upgrade here would make this a lot better.
3 doctors, 2 American and 1 Armenian, spend a full day performing surgery after surgery. We'll travel along with them next. Also, the mission team performing much more than surgery.
When I see these patients and they come into the clinic, it's almost like some of the elderly patients, I feel like they're my grandparents, you know? And I try to treat them exactly like my family members, and I feel like they appreciate that. And I hope like that all my patients feel that way.
The Valley's Armenia Mission of Mercy, presented by Fashion Furniture.
One morning during the medical mission, 3 team members ventured into rural Artsakh to provide life-changing ear, nose, and throat surgery to local people in need. Patients were lined up for the chance to be seen by the American doctors. Here's a look at how their very intense day unfolded.
Looks nicer, but we need a little bit.
Still behind the times.
A little bit. Not bad, though. Just a little bit upgrade here would make this a lot better. Alex working here. And then Alex gonna go work over there. They're pre-oxygenating. I'm in a white girl. When I do it at home, we have emergency situations, but here it just has to be perfect. So I'm going to pray for perfection.
The interesting thing about everything here is everything's in Russian. What? The medications are in Russian, the anesthesia machines are in Russian. Yes. The monitors are in Russian, and the staff, they speak Armenian or Russian. So it's been quite interesting communicating, but still achieving the goals overall.
Table down for T-Bird? T-Bird. I cut on the line.
I've been learning a lot. Dr. Brian is teaching me a lot. And it's such an amazing experience. I'm so glad, I'm so thankful for this.
6-year-old.
Yeah.
Baby boy.
Well, whenever we learn the theory at the university, it's not the same as when you see the patients, when you work with them, it's a lot different.
Back of the tonsil this far.
You said it had to be perfect.
Yes.
Was it?
Yeah. Yeah. As perfect as we can get here, but yeah, absolutely. are, and they get in line and fight in clinic to let me operate on them. It tells you something about the status of America. You might not like us, but if you want an operation, you probably want an American doctor. I should have fixed that snoring. Thank you. You're welcome. It's an honor for me. Thank you. Thank you, Mom.
The team of three, Dr. Brian Tonkinson, anesthesiologist Dr. Alex John, and Armenian doctor Ani Gregorys, performed 6 surgeries on mostly children that day. Meantime, in Stepanakert, the capital of Artsakh, other members of the mission team focused their attention on a women's hospital, a dental clinic, and more. It was a very busy day for everyone.
So when you go like this,
this is what you call multitasking. OB/GYN Dr. Stuart Mason of Fresno performing a procedure while teaching at the Women's Hospital of Stepanakert in the Republic of Artsakh.
So you don't need to, because it's a 3mm, push forward, sorry, and pull back.
He left his Fresno practice for 2 weeks to provide education to Armenian doctors and free care to patients. He's part of a team of multitaskers who've been working nonstop. In another part of the hospital, surgeon Kevin-Mahan puts his equipment assembly skills to the test. He's helping build a laparoscopic surgery tower. The components are used, but free from Fresno and in much better shape than what's here.
This facility had very old instruments for laparoscopic surgery. As you see, it's like it can be placed in a museum or something.
The updated tower, worth tens of thousands of dollars, will immediately go into use, giving local doctors a state-of-the-art tool and patients better outcomes and faster healing times. Surgeon Bobby Egbalye had to stop down a hernia surgery on a 58-year-old woman when a key instrument seemed to have been used one too many times.
You reuse a lot of instruments and you don't have a one-time use instruments. They can malfunction after multiple times.
He figures out a fix so the surgery can continue. A typical day on the job for these multitasking doctors. Whether on a surgical table or a dental chair, the medical mission service is free. A huge break for the patients who pay out of pocket. Some with chronic conditions even going untreated if money is tight.
We're leaving all here. Sutures, disposable, laparoscopic stuff, staples.
The team will leave behind a storeroom full of free supplies, things like surgical mesh that patients typically have to pay for themselves. A lasting gift from Fresno to Armenia that gives the mission doctors something important too.
It's a lot of stress to operate, but that feeling at the end that you help somebody, you save somebody's life is something great. There's nothing similar to that.
Saving lives, building and fixing equipment, and leaving the gift of supplies. Fresno's medical mission team does it all, multitasking at its best.
And still to come, a 10-minute tour of a decades-old hospital in desperate need of an update.
But we got to take a look at the situation, make an assessment, and see what is possible and what is not.
The medical mission team gets an eye-opening look at a potential project of the future.
The Valley's Armenia Mission of Mercy, presented by Fashion Furniture.
In our country, the standard of care is for women over 40 to have annual mammograms to help diagnose breast cancer at its earliest stage. But that routine preventative care doesn't happen in Armenia. A woman might finally see a doctor when she is symptomatic. Mission oncologist Dr. Dina Ibrahim says cancer treatment in Armenia seems to be only for those who can afford it. All treatments and drugs are paid out of pocket.
You know, the bottom line is these patients, again here, because of issues with healthcare, they don't have screening mammogram. There is no such a thing as screening mammogram. I mean, most women wait until something is going on with them. They discover a lump, they discover changes in their breast before they are able to go and get some testing done or screening done.
And Dr. Ibrahim diagnosed 2 cases of breast cancer while she was there, and she says some patients have told her they have to sell all of their belongings to pay for their treatments. The need for improvement in medical care was everywhere in Armenia and in Artsakh, the republic next door. We made one stop at a hospital that could use a complete overhaul. The question is it even possible, and how to begin?
A hospital tour that's hard to forget. The lobby and staircase, pediatric ward, the surgical room, complete with running water that never turns off. This is Vartanis General Hospital, built in 1973 when Armenia was under Soviet rule. Considered state-of-the-art at that time, now in a state of decay.
As you're going to Artsakh, please spend 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes.
Fresno's medical mission team of doctors was asked to spend 10 minutes touring the 35-bed facility. 10 minutes to assess whether this hospital could be a mission project of the future.
We got to take a look at the situation, make an assessment, and see what is possible and what it's not.
Fresno donors funded the renovation of a rundown surgical suite at a hospital in the city of Artsakh. We witnessed the ribbon cutting and the end result of the one-year project. But the transformation here would likely require a lot more time and a lot more money.
As you could see from the condition, it's very similar, very, very similar of Artsakh Hospital. Extremely similar. As a matter of fact, the light is exactly the same. It looks like spacecraft.
The operating suite generally should be the cleanest, the best room in the hospital.
This is not sanitary, and
unfortunately, they will do with the best that they can with what they have.
It's hard to say how much it would cost to bring this hospital that serves 45,000 people up to date. But mission team members determine it's a project that's more than cosmetic. There's a need for the infrastructure to back it up.
Because they have to have the ability for electricity, they have to have water, plumbing, and even air ventilation system.
No conclusion or decision when the 10 minutes are up. Another project to add to the growing list in a country that's in need of so much.
Joining me now is Berj Afkarian, the honorary consul for the Republic of Armenia in Fresno. And Berj has led the medical mission for the past 5 years. Berj, thank you for being here now.
Pleasure.
It's been about 2 months since the mission. How are you feeling about all that was accomplished?
Great feelings, great reaction from the community. Everybody's pleased. We're looking forward.
This was the first year that you actually had donors accompanying you to Armenia and Artsakh, and they got to see firsthand everything that the mission does. Why was it important for you to have those donors there with you this year?
They became eyewitnesses, seeing everything from the planning side to the execution, and they actually expressed their gratitude for them being part of the mission, number one. Number two, they saw how their dollars that they were given to our foundation or our mission, how it was spent. So some of them, they said, now I know where my money went.
We just saw the story from Vartanis Hospital, a facility that really, it was pretty eye-opening to see that it needs so much work. And I know there are many hospitals and clinics throughout Armenia and Artsakh that are in a similar situation. How do you decide where to focus your dollars when there is so much? It's almost overwhelming, so many places that need help.
The need is enormous. There's no doubt about that. And our heart is big, our willingness is great, but we have to prioritize and we have to work from there. So I think the biggest criteria that we are going to use and we continuously use is to take a look at where we can get the biggest return on investment, focusing on the remote areas, because we want to make sure that folks who are living in the remote areas, they have access, they can get access to the latest technology, latest opportunity for them to get the best care possible without have to drive all the way 2.5 hours or 3 hours to the capital to get the same level of care. That's our biggest return on investment. That's how we prioritize to get things done.
Because in Yerevan, there are hospitals there that offer the state-of-the-art, but folks out in the rural areas may not have easy transportation to get there. So that's why you're making that the focus.
Yes, and plus in terms of some of the technology that is not available in those regions, we want to bring that technology to them. They get the fastest, best care possible within the means.
You took 50 people on this trip. You're going to most likely expand. I know as more people hear about it. What are your thoughts about how many folks are going to travel with you on the next trip?
The need is great, but the enthusiasm from the local medical mission team members and outside is even greater. In KC24, I'm so grateful to your leadership. What you have done is you opened up the window so people know what we've done and what we want to continue to do. I assure you the numbers
it's going to be a bigger group.
It's going to be a bigger group,
well,
for sure.
Berj, thank you so much for keeping 2 spots for me and for Kevin. We sure appreciate the opportunity to travel with you and see all that you have done. Thank you so much.
With pleasure. Thank you.
When we come back, some final thoughts about this mission trip, the impact, and what's to come.
It's been a fantastic experience for me. I really learned quite a bit, of course, about what is the medical care like in other parts of the world.
The Valley's Armenia Mission of Mercy, presented by Fashion Furniture.
This wraps up year 5 of the medical mission to Armenia. And as we've heard, planning for year 6 is already underway, and many doctors plan to return.
And it's good to give back to the heritage, to my grandfather who came out from Armenia, from the genocide. And they told us, you know, you have to help people. You have to help your people to have a better life.
Very glad I came. I didn't know what to expect, but now that I know, I'll be better prepared for next year.
You know, if I could do it more often, I think if I could do it twice a year, I would.
Thank you for joining us. And again, our thanks to the Honorary Consulate of the Republic of Armenia in Fresno. Documenting your work in Armenia was memorable and a true honor. Bye-bye.